There's a place within you that no one has ever touched. Not time, not fear, not even failure. It is a place older than memory, deeper than emotion, and more powerful than any circumstance you've ever known. It waits in silence, patient, unmoved, eternal, and it has always whispered a single truth: you are more than you've been taught to believe. You are never here to chase life. You came to shape it. Tonight, as you listen, something ancient begins to stir. Not in the outside world, but within. The soft voice you may have forgotten, the one that has always known your worth, begins to rise. You're not broken. You're not behind. You are not waiting for anything. You are the center of creation, and your world forms itself around the truths you assume to be real. This is not philosophy. It is law, the law of assumption. Reality does not respond to effort. It responds to identity. What you assume to be true, in silence, in stillness, in certainty, becomes the shape of your existence. What you embody, the world reflects. Not in time, not in theory, but by natural law, as sure as the sun rises and the seasons shift. Somewhere, deep within, you already know this. There was once an old man who walked every morning to a patch of dry, cracked soil behind his home. No one planted there. No one believed anything could grow. But every day, he came with a handful of seeds and a quiet certainty in his heart. He would kneel, press his hands to the earth, and whisper, "I already see you. I smell the blossoms. I feel the colors. I taste the fruit. You are here." The neighbors laughed. They saw only dirt. But the man didn't water the soil with hope. He nourished it with vision. And then one day, without warning, it bloomed. Not because of the sun, not because of the season, but because of what he had assumed. He didn't wait for the garden. He walked in the knowing that it was already his. You are the same. The world does not ask for your proof. It reflects your truth. So ask yourself now, what truth are you holding? What story is silently shaping your days? Is it one of struggle, of scarcity, of never enough? Or are you walking as the one who already has, already is, already knows? You don't need to chase. You only need to choose. Because the moment you assume a new reality fully, inwardly, without question, your world begins to reorganize around that vibration. This is not about forcing change. It's about embodying change. To feel it real. To live as if. To speak as one who already stands where they want to be. Close your eyes. Breathe in deeply. Let the weight fall from your shoulders. Now, think of something you desire. Not with longing, but with love. Don't beg for it. Don't chase it. Assume it. See it as done. Feel the version of you who already lives inside that reality. Hear their voice. See their smile. Feel their breath. How do they speak? How do they move? What do they no longer worry about? Step into that version of you. Not tomorrow. Now. Because the power is not in the waiting. It is in the choosing. And you are choosing now. You are not becoming. You are remembering. This is your return to the self you abandoned for logic, for approval, for fear. But now the voice is back. Now the soil is fertile. Now the light is rising. You're not a seed hoping to grow. You are the garden already in bloom. The assumption has been planted. The feeling is alive. The inner creator has awakened. And what comes next is only natural. Because once the seed is sown, reality has no choice but to follow. Let's continue. There are no accidents in this universe. What comes into your experience is not placed there by chance, but by resonance. Life does not hand you what you ask for with your voice. It delivers what you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. Reality is a mirror, and the reflections you see are not answers to your prayers, but echoes of your assumptions. Many walk through life blaming the mirror. They see pain and call the world cruel. They see lack and name life unfair. But few ever stop to consider what face they're showing that mirror. Few dare to ask, what am I assuming behind every word, behind every breath? There was a tailor once, quiet and proud, whose shop sat at the edge of a forgotten street. For years, his windows stayed clean, his scissors sharp, yet few ever entered. Day after day, he sat in silence, stitching cloth with a heavy heart. He would sigh, no one values this work anymore. And the town, without knowing why, simply passed him by, until one morning, he stood before his own reflection and spoke differently. People need what I create. My hands are blessed. My work matters. He didn't say it with hope. He said it with decision, as if it had always been true. At first, nothing happened. The streets were still quiet. But inside, something shifted. And then, almost suddenly, a traveler passed, admired his window, and asked for a suit. Word began to spread. The tailor's posture changed. His tone became certain. People said the town had changed, but the truth was simpler. The mirror had finally been shown a new image, and it had no choice but to reflect it. Your world is no different. You're not here to wish for change. You are here to become the change and let the world respond. Not as magic, as law. So what have you been whispering to the mirror? Have you said, I always mess things up? Then the mirror must show you proof. Have you said, nothing ever works for me? Then that becomes your script. But if instead you begin to say, and more importantly, to feel, I am the one who always finds a way, then suddenly doors appear. People arrive. The world reshapes itself, not because you begged it to, but because you assumed it would. This is not blind optimism. It is creative responsibility. To own your vibration. To become the architect of the assumptions you carry. And once you become aware of the mirror, you can no longer look away. Because now you know that what you assume behind closed eyes will echo through every open door. Let's take a moment now, here, with your breath steady and your heart calm. Think of a pattern that keeps returning to your life, a situation that loops, a challenge that repeats. Maybe it's in your relationships, your finances, your health. Whatever it is, bring it into your awareness now. And ask, what belief lives beneath this? What assumption have I been holding? Maybe you've assumed, I'm not chosen. Maybe you've assumed, it's always hard. Maybe you've assumed, I don't deserve more. Now, softly, without resistance, let that belief go. Not because you've fixed anything, but because you've chosen something new. Replace it. Say to yourself now, I am chosen. My life flows with ease. I deserve everything I desire. Speak it, even if your mind resists, even if your body hesitates. Speak it not for proof, but for power, because the mirror cannot reflect a truth you refuse to hold. You're not asking the world to change. You are changing, and the world is following. Let that truth settle. Let it become natural. Let it become real. Because when the inside shifts, the outside bends. This is the mirror, and now you're the one holding the image. We continue forward. Emotion is not weakness. Emotion is frequency, the purest form of signal, the language that creation understands without question. While thought builds the frame, it is emotion that breathes life into what we create. Without feeling, words are empty. Without emotion, assumption is hollow. Imagine a candle, a beautiful shape, perfectly crafted, but unlit. This is assumption without emotion. It holds potential, but no power. Now, picture that same candle burning, its flame warm, alive, dancing with energy. That flame is feeling. It is the fire that transforms desire into experience. There was a woman who lived at the edge of a quiet village. She made candles by hand, each one poured with care. Over time, she began to notice something strange. The candles she made while joyful burned brighter, longer. Those she crafted while anxious flickered and dimmed quickly. It was as if her energy was infused in the wax. The more joy she felt, the more beauty her work carried. She had discovered what sages have always known, that emotion is the carrier wave of creation. When you feel something deeply, when you truly feel it, you impress that feeling onto the fabric of reality. It becomes a command, not a force, but a vibration. The universe listens not to what you say, but to how you feel when you say it. This is why repeating affirmations without emotion rarely works. It's not about the words, it's about the state. So ask yourself now, what are you feeling most of the day? Are you feeling lack, frustration, resistance? Are you feeling fear masked as logic? Or are you allowing yourself to feel ease, peace, gratitude, joy? Because every feeling sends out a signal, and every signal returns carrying something that matches it. Let's practice now. Close your eyes once more. Think of a moment in your life. It doesn't matter when, where you felt complete joy. Pure, effortless, childlike joy. Maybe you were laughing. Maybe you felt safe. Maybe you felt free. Let that memory flood your senses. Smell the air. Hear the sounds. Let the joy expand in your body like light pouring through your chest. Now, in the center of that emotion, bring in your desire. Not as something far away, but as something already real, already done. Let the joy wrap around it. Let the vision melt into the emotion. Feel yourself already living it, breathing it, owning it. This is emotional alchemy. This is how we turn vibration into matter. The feeling is the access point. The state is the magnet. The emotion is the energy that accelerates the assumption into form. You do not need to pretend. You do not need to force. You only need to feel. And not tomorrow, not next month, now. Because now is the only time creation ever listens. Now is the only moment reality can be reshaped. And the more often you live in this state, the more natural it becomes. What was once a practice becomes a personality. What was once a vision becomes a memory. And the line between inner and outer disappears. This is how miracles happen without struggle. This is how desires manifest without resistance. You're not waiting for the emotion to come. You're using it to lead the way. And as you walk in that emotional certainty, the world moves to meet you. Quietly, powerfully, inevitably, because it must. There was once a merchant named Leonard who walked each day through a town known for its coldness, for its judgment, for its silence. Every morning he met scowls with scowls, the sharp edges of glances echoing back the dull ache he carried in his chest. Life, it seemed, had grown hard around him. But what Leonard didn't yet see was that the world was not hard. It was reflective. It was a mirror, showing him what he carried inside. One evening, tired of the weight he bore, Leonard sat alone in the quiet of his home. No books, no distractions, just silence and self. He closed his eyes and whispered the words he had never dared speak before. Maybe, he said, maybe the world is waiting for me to soften first. From that night forward, he chose to walk differently. Where he once expected judgment, he assumed kindness. Where he once braced for rejection, he now anticipated warmth. And slowly, the mirror changed. The same streets, the same people, the same town, but now smiles returned to him. Doors opened. Conversations lingered longer. Not because the world had transformed, but because Leonard had shown a new face. You live in the same mirror. What you give, you see. What you expect, you meet. This is not fiction. This is law. Universal. Immutable. Not a reward system. A reflection system. When you assume love, the world becomes warmer. When you assume abundance, opportunities appear. When you assume worthiness, life begins to offer what you were once afraid to ask for. And when the world does not yet reflect your new belief, do not retreat. Do not question your power. The mirror does not lie. It only takes time to catch up to the face you now choose to wear. Let's pause here. Take a breath. Gently, slowly. Now, think of something in your life that repeats, a loop, a cycle, a frustration you've met more than once. Name it, feel it, and instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? Ask, what have I assumed that keeps calling this back? Be honest. Be kind. Maybe you've been assuming you are overlooked. Maybe you've been assuming life is meant to be a struggle. Maybe you've been assuming you're not good enough for the joy you secretly crave. Now, breathe in once more and begin to shift. Choose a new assumption, not from fantasy, but from decision. Say it aloud if you can, not as a hope, but as a truth. I am seen. My life flows with ease. I am worthy of everything I desire. Let these words anchor into your body. Repeat them with certainty, not desperation. Speak them as facts, not wishes. Because what you declare in silence becomes law in your reality. And the more you repeat them, with feeling, with steadiness, with faith, the more they begin to grow roots. Not just in your mind, but in the mirror of your world. You are not asking for change. You are assuming change. You are becoming the change. And so the world must follow. It always has. This is the mirror. You're holding it now. There was a healer named Ethel who lived on the edge of a timeless village, nestled between soft hills and quiet winds. People came to her from far and wide, not because she gave them herbs or potions, but because when they sat in her presence, she didn't see their illness. She didn't see their pain, or their fear, or their limitation. She saw only one thing, their wholeness. And it was this unwavering assumption, this silent knowing of their perfection, that did the work. Her clients would leave changed, not because she had fixed them, but because she had refused to believe they were broken. You too have this power to see differently, to assume higher, to hold yourself and others not as they appear, but as they truly are. This is the assumption that transforms. Not just others, but you. When you stop arguing with the current version of your life, when you no longer try to wrestle your reality into something better, but instead assume it has already become better, everything shifts. This is not delusion. This is creation. And it begins not with force, but with stillness. There was a man named Patrick. He had known loneliness for years. He had tried everything, dating, fixing himself, becoming more, becoming less. But one morning, without reason, he made a quiet choice. He would no longer try to be loved. He would live as if he already was. He stopped wondering if he was enough. He stopped searching for someone to complete him. He moved through his days with the quiet confidence of someone who was already cherished. And without pursuit, love found him. Not because he had earned it, but because he had finally assumed it. This is the secret. What you seek is not far from you. It is not waiting behind effort or perfection. It is waiting behind your identity. And when you assume the new identity, the one that matches the life you desire, you activate forces far greater than logic. You become magnetic. You become aligned. Because the version of you who already has what you want is not waiting to be created. That version already exists now, and all you must do is become it in mind, in word, in state. So rise now, not later, not when it's safe. Now, walk to your mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and speak, not as someone trying, but as someone who knows. Say, I am whole, I am chosen, I am the embodiment of love, of peace, of prosperity. Say it slowly, with presence, with power. Let echo in your chest. Let replace the old narrative. Let settle deep, not because the mirror needs to see it, but because you do. And once you do, the mirror must follow. The reflection will change because the image has. You are not fixing yourself. You are remembering yourself. And that remembrance will do more for your reality than 1,000 plans ever could. You're already becoming. Let the next chapter of your life be written from this state. The state of having, the state of knowing, the state of being. It is yours. High above the winding streets of an ancient town, in a quiet sunlit studio, stood a woman named Agnes. Her easel faced the open window, and each morning she would begin to paint. Not what she saw, but what she felt. Not what existed, but what could. Her brush carried the weight of emotion, the pulse of imagination, the power of unseen things made visible. Over time, something began to change. The more vividly she painted her inner world, the more it began to echo in the outer one. The scene she had crafted in oil and light, a red bird perched on a windowsill, would appear outside the next day. A stranger she had imagined buying her art would knock at her door. Her canvas, it seemed, was not only a tool for beauty, but for creation. Agnes had discovered what few ever truly grasp. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the blueprint, the bridge, the workshop of a universe. What you vividly imagine, with feeling and detail, becomes the template of your reality. And the universe, without fail, begins to arrange itself around that vision. The key is not in passive daydreaming, but in embodied, intentional imagination, the kind that is lived as though it were already real, the kind that engages the senses, that pulses with emotion, that feels not like a wish, but like a memory. Charles, in a quiet rehabilitation center, was told he might never walk again. But each day, he closed his eyes and imagined himself standing. He felt the ground beneath his feet. He heard the rhythm of his steps. He visualized the motion, the freedom, the strength. And slowly, his body began to respond. Not because he hoped, but because he assumed. Through imagination, he had instructed his mind. And the mind, in turn, instructed the body. This is not make-believe. It is law. So now, take this moment for yourself. Find stillness. Let your breath deepen and begin to see, not with your eyes, but with your inner vision. Picture the life you desire, not as something coming, but as something already here. See the room. Hear the sounds. Feel the textures. Where are you? What are you wearing? Who's beside you? What do you smell? What are you saying? What's being said to you? Bring it to life. Saturate it with color, with clarity, with emotion. And most importantly, feel it. Feel the joy. Feel the peace. Feel the quiet knowing that it is done. Because in this moment it is. This is your sacred imagination at work. This is your act of creation. The more you return to this place, the more vivid it becomes. The more vivid it becomes, the more solid it feels. And the more solid it feels, the sooner the world begins to reflect it. Imagination is the first act. An assumption is the lock that seals it into form. So do not wait for the world to give you permission to feel. Give yourself permission now. Paint your life with a brush of vision. Fill it with emotion. And live it inside until the outside catches up, because it will. It must. It always does. In a humble cottage nestled in the quiet folds of time, Florence sat at a weathered wooden table, threading her needle with grace worn smooth by years of repetition. Her hands moved in rhythm, but her mind was somewhere else, somewhere far beyond fabric and thread. With each stitch, she didn't just mend cloth. She wove visions. She breathed life into the unseen. Her neighbors saw her as a simple seamstress. But Florence was more than that. She was a weaver of realities. She didn't wish for success. She felt it. She didn't beg for recognition. She lived as if it had already arrived. And so it did. This is the forgotten wisdom. Your desires are not accidents. They are not indulgent fantasies or unreachable dreams. They are sacred compasses pointing toward what is already possible for you, already waiting, already alive in the unseen. You were never meant to look at your desires and feel lack. You were meant to look at them and remember who you really are. Every longing is a seed, and every seed contains the pattern of its own blooming. But seeds do not grow because you stare at them. They grow because you assume they're unfolding. Florence didn't wait for her life to change. She changed it stitch by stitch, breath by breath, with every quiet assumption of worth, of beauty, of value. Her world didn't need to give her proof. Her heart already had it. Milton, another soul lost in the noise of failure, made a similar choice. His ledger was filled with red ink, his steps heavy with discouragement. But one morning, he decided he would no longer walk like a man hoping for success. He would walk as one who already owned it. He stood taller. He made decisions not from desperation, but from the calm wisdom of someone who expected things to work out. He stopped chasing and started choosing. And one by one, things began to shift. Not because the universe favored him, but because he finally favored himself. This is the nature of reality. It mirrors not what you want, but who you are willing to be. There is a practice, ancient and quiet, known only to those who remember their true power. It is the practice of sleeping in the state. Each night, as your head rests against the pillow and the world begins to dim, you are given a doorway, a space where your conscious mind softens, and the subconscious, the great builder of your world, becomes wide open. And in that sacred space, what you feel becomes law. So tonight, as sleep wraps its arms around you, do not carry the weight of your fears into the dark. Carry the certainty of your vision. Fall asleep not in the state of waiting, but in the state of having. Feel the embrace of the life you desire, as if it is already holding you. Breathe as one who is already there. Let your last thoughts be soaked in the feeling of it being done. Because when you sleep in the state, your subconscious begins to align every detail, every person, every moment to make that feeling real. You do not have to know how. You only have to know who. And that who is you. You are the sower, the seed, the soil, and the season. And what you water with assumption will grow. Let the night carry your vision now. Let the stars shine not above you, but within you. For what you assume is true in sleep becomes the structure of your waking world. And as the sun rises, so will the life you've already begun to claim. In the hushed corridors of an ancient library, where dust settled like time and silence held every secret ever spoken, Dorothy discovered a book unlike any other. Its cover was worn, its pages brittle, yet the moment she opened it, something extraordinary happened. The book began to whisper her thoughts back to her. Not her words, her beliefs, not her stories, her assumptions. And with every page, the book revealed something deeper. It would only change when she spoke with certainty. Not with hope, not with doubt, but with the unwavering conviction of one who knows. The universe, like that book, responds not to wishes, but to declarations. Your voice is not just sound. It is vibration. It is authority. It is command. And every word you speak carries the blueprint of your belief. Whether you whisper, "I can't," or proclaim, "I am," you are etching instruction into the fabric of reality. There was a tailor named Robert, humble and quiet, whose shop had sat empty for weeks. Bills piled up, and discouragement clung to the walls like shadows. But Robert had heard of the power of speech, of speaking not as a beggar, but as a creator. Each morning, he stood before his mirror and said, not meekly, but boldly, "My shop prospers. My craft is treasured. Success flows to me with ease." He said it not as a chant, but as a truth. Not as a wish, but as a fact. At first, nothing changed. The street remained still. But Robert kept speaking. He refused to let the mirror define him. He defined the mirror. And then, like water breaking through stone, the shift came. A woman stopped in front of his window. A referral turned into a loyal client. A reputation, once forgotten, was now spreading. The words had taken root, not because they were magic, but because they were backed by the energy of assumption. Your words carry power only when your state aligns with them. Saying, "I am abundant," from a place of fear is hollow. But saying, "I am abundant," from a place of truth, even if your pockets are empty, moves mountains. So now, wherever you are, speak. Not softly, not apologetically, but with the tone of someone who is remembering, not convincing. Say aloud, or in the silence of your heart, the life you have chosen. Speak it clearly. I am peaceful. I am deeply loved. I am successful in all that I do. I move through life with grace and certainty. Do not wait for evidence. Do not ask permission. Let your voice become the vibration that aligns your world. Because when you speak as though it is, the universe answers. So it shall be. Make this your daily ritual. Stand before the mirror not to critique yourself, but to call yourself forth. Describe your life not as it was, but as it is meant to be. Not in the language of someday, but in the boldness of already. Let your words reshape your identity. Let your identity reshape your path. Because the one who speaks with faith walks with power. And the one who walks with power does not wait for change. They become it. There is a moment just before sleep when the world becomes quiet enough for truth to speak. And in that moment, there is no effort, no resistance, only awareness, only choice. You do not need to fix anything to receive what you desire. You only need to assume it's already yours. Because the universe is not withholding. It is responding. Each desire you hold is a conversation already in motion, an answer waiting for you to say, "I accept." But most turn away. They measure their dreams against their current circumstances, and when they see no evidence, they doubt. They hesitate. They settle. But you're not most people. You have come this far because something in you remembers that creation begins within, not around you. And now, you will no longer wait. You will no longer postpone your joy, your freedom, your wholeness. You will no longer speak of what could be. You will speak of what is. So, as this journey nears its close, bring your attention once more to your breath. Let it slow, let it soften, let it anchor you into the present moment, the only moment from which your life ever truly unfolds. Now listen carefully. Everything you desire already exists in one form or another, and the version of you who has it lives within you now. They are not separate from you. They are you without doubt. You do not need to chase that version. You need only to assume their state, to feel how they feel, to walk how they walk, to speak how they speak. And from that feeling, from that state, your outer world begins to mirror the inner one. Not slowly, not painfully, but naturally, inevitably, precisely. Tonight, and every night after, make this your ritual. As your head meets the pillow, do not rehearse worry. Do not cradle fear. Instead, step into your wish fulfilled. Let your final thoughts be not of what you lack, but of what is already complete. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet certainty. Let sleep take you there, not as an escape, but as a return. Because when you sleep in the state of the fulfilled desire, you impress it upon the subconscious. And the subconscious never forgets. It builds, it organizes, it rearranges the pieces of your world to match the picture it's been given. So give it the image of your dream. Give it the feeling of your dream. Not tomorrow, now. And as you drift, know this. You are not hoping for the life you want. You are becoming it. You're not searching for proof. You're being the proof. And the world, that faithful mirror, will reflect it all back to you. Not because you begged, not because you worked harder than everyone else, but because you assumed it and felt it real. And now it is. If you enjoyed this content, share it and subscribe to the channel. Every day, we bring new videos to nourish your soul. There is a silence deeper than stillness, more powerful than sound. It exists not outside of you, but within, a presence untouched by chaos, untouched by time. This silence is not empty. It is full, alive, creative. It is the womb of assumption, where thought becomes form and form becomes fate. When you sit in that silence, without fear, without reaching, without questioning, and simply become the one who already has what they once longed for, the universe doesn't hesitate. It doesn't analyze. It simply echoes, because you are not separate from the intelligence that made the stars. The breath that rises in your chest, the pulse that beats without your command, the thoughts that appear before your voice can shape them. They are not random. They are expressions of a greater design, a greater knowing, a greater truth. And that truth is this: you are the source of your reality, not through effort, through alignment, not through demand, through embodiment. The world does not bend to will. It bends to identity. And identity is not what you say you are when people are watching. It is what you assume when no one is listening. So we go deeper now. Breathe in gently through the nose. Exhale slowly through the mouth. And allow your awareness to drift inward, as if descending a spiral staircase, each breath taking you closer to the core of your being. See yourself there, not as a seeker, not as a student, but as a creator. In this inner sanctuary, feel the weight of your old stories fall away. All the times you believed you had to prove your worth. All the years you measure your value by other people's opinions. All the noise that told you to wait, to shrink, to survive. Let go now, because in this sacred place, only one truth remains. You're already whole. You're already enough. And from this wholeness, everything you desire begins to emerge. Not slowly, not conditionally, but organically, as a flower blooms in spring. You do not need to convince the universe to bless you. The blessing is already in motion. You only need to remove the veil of doubt. You only need to say within yourself, "It is done," and feel it. Not just say it, feel it. Let your breath sync with the version of you who already lives the life you dream of. Let your heart beat with the rhythm of certainty. Not because you forced it, but because you finally let go of needing to control everything and trusted the invisible architecture of your own consciousness. This is the realm of true power, the realm of quiet transformation, the realm of assumption, embodied, unwavering, alive. And from this place, you walk back into the world not the same. You walk lighter, calmer, clearer, because you're no longer reacting to what is. You're calling forth what is yours. And everything begins to change, not through noise, but through the echo of a whisper that finally believed in itself. So breathe, and remember, this moment, this silence, this state is where it all begins. And from this stillness, we rise. Rise, not as the person the world has shaped, but as the self you were always meant to remember. Not shaped by fear, not molded by lack, not built from the opinions of others, but forged in stillness, in truth, in the quiet knowing that you are the source, not the effect. You are not waiting for permission to bloom. You are the soil, the seed, and the sunlight. The moment you assume your life is already unfolding in your favor, the moment you stand in that knowing, life obeys. This is not a philosophy to debate. This is not motivation to consume and forget. This is law, ancient and absolute, written not in books, but in the rhythm of existence itself. Gravity does not ask if it should pull. The sun does not ask if it may rise. And the law of assumption does not ask whether it should respond to you. It already is, always has been. Your assumptions are the blueprint, and your feelings are the builders. The stronger your emotional conviction, the faster the reality forms around you. Because energy organizes itself around certainty. Not hope, not desperation. Certainty. So ask yourself, what have I been certain of? Have you been certain you are not enough? Have you been certain things never work out? Have you been certain love is far away? That success belongs to others? That joy is reserved for the lucky? And if so, do not judge yourself. Simply recognize it, because in that recognition, you reclaim the power to choose again. And this time, choose with awareness. This time, choose with presence. This time, choose with heart. Say it now, softly but surely, within yourself. I no longer assume struggle. I no longer assume I must prove myself. I no longer assume life is against me. Now say this. I assume I am guided. I assume life is supporting me. I assume what I desire is already mine. Let these words move from thought to feeling to identity. You are not chanting empty phrases. You are activating law. You are handing your subconscious the script it will now play out on the screen of your life. And the subconscious never questions the actor. It only follows direction. So direct with power, with softness, with clarity. Each morning, when your eyes open, let that be your cue, not to return to the old self, but to re-enter the chosen state. The state where you already are the person you once hoped to be. The state where you're no longer asking, but accepting. Let your mornings begin not with worry, but with remembrance. Let your nights end not in regret, but in assumption. You do not need to know how it will all unfold. You only need to assume that it already is. And in that assumption, walk. Walk with faith, not force. Walk with grace, not grind. Walk as the version of yourself who no longer performs, no longer waits, no longer needs proof, because they have become the proof. The world will not understand it at first. It may look the same, feel the same, but you're not the same. And because you're not the same, nothing will stay the same. Let this knowing settle into your breath. Let it color the way you see, the way you speak, the way you move. And every step from here forward, let it be an echo of one simple truth. I already am. And because I already am, life already is. There is nothing left to chase, nothing to reach for, nothing to fix. The moment you truly assume that what you desire is already yours, you stop running. You stop searching. You stop begging for a future that's been waiting patiently behind your own permission. You're not meant to suffer to earn your dreams. You're meant to align with them, to become their match in frequency, in feeling, in being. The river does not chase the ocean. It flows to it because it is already connected. Your desires are the same. They're not far. They're not out there. They're already connected to you through the state you allow yourself to occupy. And this is where everything changes. You've walked through most of your life believing that action alone shapes your path. That the more you do, the more you force, the more you try, the closer you get. But energy does not respond to effort. Energy responds to alignment. And alignment is not a performance, it's a state. It's the internal, quiet, powerful decision to live as if it is already done. No matter what your current circumstances look like, no matter what has come before, no matter what others think is possible for you. Because the version of you who has the life you desire isn't confused, isn't doubting, isn't waiting. That version of you is calm, confident, certain, not because they forced the outcome, but because they became the outcome. Let's return there now. Close your eyes. Breathe in deeply. filling your body with presence. Exhale slowly, releasing any tension, any doubt, any need to control. Now bring to mind the reality you crave, the life that tugs at your soul. And instead of reaching for it, step into it. Don't look at it from a distance. Look out from within it. You're not imagining it. You're remembering it. Feel the weight of that life in your body. Feel the texture of it, the rhythm, the energy. You're not visualizing a fantasy. You're coming home to the version of you that already exists, beyond fear, beyond logic, beyond time. Stay there. Linger in that feeling. Let it become familiar, because familiarity creates truth, and truth creates form. This is the practice. Not striving but being, not pushing but allowing, not asking but assuming. And from that state, your actions will flow differently. They will no longer come from lack, but from overflow, from confidence, from knowing. You won't be building a life from the ground up. You'll be matching the frequency of what's already built. And when you walk in that state long enough, the outside world stops resisting you. It starts reflecting you. People shift, doors open, ideas arrive, synchronicities align. Not because the world suddenly decided to favor you, but because you finally decided to favor yourself. So walk forward now, not as someone who is becoming, but as someone who has remembered. And every step you take, let echo that deeper truth. I'm not waiting. I'm not hoping. I'm not reaching. I already am. And in this sacred space of remembering, your world begins to respond, not as a distant echo, but as a living reflection. You no longer question when your dream will arrive. You no longer beg for signs. You look around with calm eyes, knowing that everything unfolding is simply a match to your current identity, not your effort, your embodiment. You start to notice the subtle shifts, the right words at the right time, a conversation that opens a door, an idea that arrives fully formed in the stillness of morning. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. The external rearranges itself in direct response to your inner consistency. Not because you forced it, because you felt it. You become a magnet for what is already yours. You carry it in your breath, in your posture, in your silence. And life, obedient as always, bends toward your new rhythm. Not because it has changed, but because you have. Your inner world is now the cause. The outer world, the effect. This is the inversion that frees you. The realization that the more you assume from within, the less you must control from without. The more you surrender the need to chase, the more quickly what you seek finds its way to you. And you begin to live differently. Not louder, but deeper. Not faster, but with more purpose. Because when you truly assume, you no longer fear time. You no longer doubt your path. You know that everything you've ever wanted is already moving toward you. Or more accurately, you're moving toward the version of you that has always held it. So let go of the idea that you must suffer to receive. Let go of the belief that you are behind. There is no race here. There is only resonance. There is only you choosing again and again and again to live as if it were already done. And it is. In the unseen, it is done. In a field of infinite possibility, it is done. And in your heart, if you let it be, it is already done. This is the final turning point. Not a finish line, but a rebirth. You no longer ask, how long? You no longer say, someday. You wake up and say, now. And even when the world hasn't caught up yet, you smile because you're no longer waiting for proof. You become the proof. And that quiet confidence, that inner solidity, is what begins to ripple through everything. Your relationships soften. Your body aligns. Your creativity flows. You've stopped surviving. You're now expressing. And the expression of your truth is the most natural, magnetic, powerful force you've ever known. Because it's not something you invented. It's who you've been beneath the noise all along. So hold it, speak it, breathe it, walk in it, and let your life rise to meet you in that state. Because now you know the secret. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you assume. And you, right now, are assuming power, peace, wholeness, worth. And because you are, your world is. And it will continue to unfold from this truth in perfect timing, in perfect harmony, because you have already become it. You're no longer the version of yourself that waits. That version has served its purpose. It taught you what longing feels like, what doubt can do, what it means to live in the echo of unchosen stories. But now, that chapter closes, and what rises in its place is clarity, stillness, knowing. You walk through the same streets, but the light is different now. You speak the same words, but your voice carries weight. You sit in silence, and even there, something is changing. Not because the world is shifting, but because you're now aligned with the life you once only imagined. It's no longer a vision. It's your vibration. It's no longer a hope. It's your home. You're living in the end, feeling the end, thinking from the end. And this is the secret no one teaches loudly enough. You don't manifest from the beginning. You manifest by dwelling in the outcome. Not, I hope it happens, but of course it has. Not, will it come, but it's already mine. And from that subtle but sacred shift, a new world begins to take shape. There's less noise in your mind, less urgency in your decisions, less tension in your body. Because when you no longer define yourself by your current conditions, you are free to create without fear. This is the final layer of transformation, stability in assumption. Not just visiting the state for moments, but living in it, breathing from it, acting through it, trusting in it when nothing around you has changed, and especially when it hasn't. Because this is where the greatest shift occurs, when you persist in your new identity, even in the face of your old one. When you respond to the world as if it already reflects your desire before it does. When you stop checking for signs and become the sign. And in that consistency, the reality must crystallize. Not because you deserve it, you always did, but because you finally stopped doubting it. So pause here for a moment and feel the gravity of this truth. You are not becoming powerful. You are powerful now. You are not becoming abundant. You are abundant now. You are not becoming loved. You are loved now. You are not becoming free. You are freedom embodied. And the world is not your opponent. It is your canvas, your mirror, your response. And it responds not to force, not to pain, not to effort, but to frequency, to feeling, to assumption. So what are you assuming now? As you stand here, not as the person you were, but as the person you've chosen to be. What are you believing without needing to see? What are you embodying without needing evidence? That answer, whatever it is already shaping your next experience. So let that answer be one of courage. Let it be one of trust. Let it be one of divine certainty. And let that certainty carry you through this moment and the next and the next, until the world has no choice but to catch up. Because it will. Because it always does. Because it must. This is the rhythm now, not of waiting, but of welcoming, not of proving, but of embodying. You have stepped out of the illusion that you are separate from what you desire. You see clearly now, there is no gap. Only the mind creates distance. Only doubt builds walls. Only fear delays what was already yours. But assumption dissolves all of it. When you live from the end, every moment becomes a bridge, not to possibility, but to presence. And presence is where manifestation becomes effortless. Because in presence, there is no past to repeat, no future to chase. There is only now, and now is where all power lives. You begin to move differently, with less friction, less noise, less resistance, Your decisions feel simple, aligned. Your actions are no longer based on lack or anxiety, but on peace, the kind of peace that only comes from knowing you've already arrived. People feel it. They don't always understand it, but they sense it. They see it in your eyes, in your tone, in your ease. You're not trying anymore. You're not needing. You're not convincing. You're simply being. And this being, this chosen identity, is the one that carries the frequency of everything you once longed for. You look around and the signs begin to show, not because you demanded them, but because your energy silently commanded them. You hear the phrase you just spoke to yourself in someone else's voice. You see the image that matched your vision appear in real time. You receive the message, the opportunity, the meeting, the moment, all lined up, all arriving as if the entire universe had heard your private declaration and whispered back, "We've been waiting for you to know." Not for you to work harder, not for you to become perfect, just for you to know. That's what it has always been about. Not faith in some future, but faith in yourself, in your voice, in your word, in your feeling, in your chosen state. So as this journey begins to settle into your soul and the path ahead becomes clear, let one final truth anchor deep within. You do not need to do more to receive more. You only need to remember who you are and live from it. Not sometimes, not when it's convenient, not when the evidence shows, but now, every breath, every step, every decision, let it all rise from the version of you who already holds the keys, who already walks in wholeness, who already lives inside the answer prayer. Let your words reflect it. Let your posture reflect it. Let your silence reflect it. And the world, that sacred mirror, will respond as it always has to the image you show it. And now, finally, it sees the real you. If you enjoyed this content, share it and subscribe to the channel. Every day, we bring new videos to nourish your soul. There is no ending here, only return. A return to presence, a return to knowing, a return to the simple, undeniable truth that you have always had the power. You don't need to chase signs anymore. You are the sign. You are the evidence. You are the vibration of the reality you once hoped would come. Now, as you move forward, let your life become your affirmation. Let your breath become your prayer. Let your every action, no matter how small, become a declaration. I am. I already am. Let mornings begin not in reaction, but in creation. Before the world speaks, speak to yourself. I am the cause. I am the source. I am the creator of my world. And as the day unfolds, do not waver when things appear unchanged. Remember, the outer always reflects the inner, but sometimes there's a moment of stillness before the mirror catches up. Do not use the silence as proof that nothing is working. Use it as confirmation that the soil is fertile and the seed you planted is already breaking open beneath the surface. Because it is. That feeling you had, that vision you held, that assumption you chose, it's already in motion. You do not need to beg the seed to grow. You do not need to micromanage the rain. You only need to water your state with faith, with repetition, with embodiment, and keep walking, with the grace of one who trusts, with the poise of one who knows, with the stillness of one who no longer needs to prove anything, because they already are everything. This is your life now. Not a life you earn, a life you allow, a life you receive, a life that responds to who you have decided to become. So become it. Every morning, every evening, in every breath in between. Let your assumptions be sacred. Let your feelings be honest. Let your imagination be vivid. Let your words be final. And watch, not with urgency, but with reverence, as your reality bends to match your knowing. Because it will. Because it already is. Because you already are. And as you continue to walk in this truth, something begins to happen that no words can fully describe. Life stops feeling like a mountain to climb and starts feeling like a river you've remembered how to float in. You don't lose your ambition, you just lose the tension. You don't stop desiring, you stop doubting. You don't give up the dream, you finally realize you're inside it. The old you, the one who needed to be saved, to be chosen, to be fixed, begins to dissolve. Not because you fought it, but because you no longer feed it. You no longer tell its story. You no longer believe its voice. You're writing a new story now, not with ink, but with identity. And in this story, you are the author and the main character. You are the page and the pen. And every thought you choose, every word you speak, every feeling you nurture becomes the paragraph the universe reads from. So choose well, speak well, feel well, because life is not happening to you. It's happening through you. In this space, you no longer try to escape the moment. You let the moment shape itself around your chosen state. You understand now that you bring meaning to experience, not the other way around. So even when doubt whispers, you don't argue. You return to your state. Even when reality delays, you don't collapse. You hold your ground. Even when nothing outside looks different, you persist inside because you finally understand the order of things. State first, reality second, not the reverse, never the reverse. And as you deepen your connection to this truth, you begin to feel an inner peace no circumstance can touch. You realize the journey was never about changing the world. It was about changing who you believed you were inside of it. And now that you remember, you no longer need a rush. There is no lack. There is no delay. There is only the gentle unfolding of a life that was always meant for you. And that now, finally, you've stopped resisting. So rest in this new identity. Trust in its rhythm. Walk in its strength. And when life speaks, through synchronicity, through opportunities, through the quiet unfolding of grace, smile. Because now you understand why it's happening. You stopped waiting. You stopped asking. You've started being. And from that being, everything flows. Everything returns. Everything aligns. Because you already are. And from this place of being, unshaken, unhurried, undeniable, you become what the world has been waiting to see. Not a perfect person, not someone without fear or flaw, but someone who has remembered that power never left, that worth was never lost, that peace was always accessible, just hidden behind layers of forgetting. This is what the law of assumption brings you back to, the original you, the one who doesn't ask, "Can I have it?" but instead states, "It is mine." The one who doesn't need to be convinced, because they are the conviction. You carry yourself differently now. Your silence says more than your old words ever did. You don't rush to explain yourself, to justify your desires, to shrink in the face of misunderstanding. You let your energy speak, and it speaks clearly. It says, "I am here. I am ready. I am already aligned with everything I once believed I had to chase." Because you now live in the state of the end, the wish fulfilled, the assumption fully accepted. And you no longer look for the world to show you who you are. You show the world what's already true. Even when others can't see it yet, you do. Even when the mirror still reflects traces of the old story, you remain still, steady, grounded in your new reality. You know the mirror must catch up. You know form must follow focus. You know that this inner world, this rich, vivid, sacred inner world you've claimed, is the source code of all creation. So you honor it. You return to it. You protect it from noise, from doubt, from distraction. Because this inner world is now your home, not your escape, your foundation. And from this place, your life becomes effortless flow. People begin to say, "There's something different about you." They'll ask what you did, what changed, what technique you used. And you'll smile, not out of pride, but out of peace. Because what you've done isn't complicated. It isn't performative. It isn't secret. You simply assumed. You assumed a new truth and lived inside it, long enough for reality to catch up. And now that it has, you understand something that few do. Reality is not the creator. You are. Your state is the root. Your assumption is the cause. Your embodiment is the instruction. And from this place, where truth is lived, not chased, there is nothing left to force. There is only alignment. There is only unfolding. There is only grace. And this grace is yours. Always was. Always will be. So now, as this journey settles into the deepest part of you, as the words fade into quiet and the silence grows full with meaning, one truth remains, steady and unshakable. You have always been the source. Every moment of your life, the ones filled with light and the ones heavy with shadow, were not random. They were mirrors, echoes, reflections of what you dared or didn't dare to assume about yourself, about love, about life, about what you thought you deserved. But now you know better. And because you know better, you become better, not in comparison to others, but in comparison to who you used to pretend to be. You're no longer pretending. You're no longer performing. You're no longer living life waiting for something outside of you to change so you can feel whole, happy, seen, enough. Because you feel it now. You are it now. And that changes everything. Because when you no longer live in reaction to the world begins to respond to you in ways you could never have planned, never have controlled, but always quietly expected. That is the gift of the one who assumes power. They don't need to dominate anything. They don't need to chase what's already theirs. They become still, certain, anchored, and from that stillness, life rushes to meet them. Not because they asked louder, but because they finally stopped asking and simply became. So let this be your practice now. Each morning, rise not to fix, but to remember. Each evening, rest not in fear, but in fulfillment. Throughout the day, let your inner dialogue speak not of distance, but of closeness. Not of someday, but of already. And when doubt returns, as it sometimes will, smile at it. Thank it. Let it pass. Because you no longer need to argue with old thoughts. You simply choose again. You return again. You assume again. And each time you do, the roots of this new identity grow deeper, stronger, unshakable. And what blooms from that soil is not just a new life, but a new world. One where you walk without fear, love without limits, and receive without resistance. You're not becoming that person. You're that person. And now, finally, you've chosen to live like it. This is not the end. This is the beginning of your real life, your natural state, your inevitable unfolding. And every breath from here on is a continuation of that choice, to live as the one who already is, already has, already knows. Because you do, and so it is. So it is, not because you forced it, not because you proved yourself worthy, but because you finally stopped resisting what has always been yours. There's a stillness in the knowing, a calm that no achievement can offer and no failure can take away. You no longer strive to become. You simply allow yourself to be. You no longer stand at the edge of your desires. You live within them. You're not creating a new reality by sheer will. You are unveiling the one that was always available, always aligned, always waiting behind your surrender. And as you continue forward, day by day, there will be moments that test your state. Moments when the old story knocks again, softly but persistently, asking if you still believe in what you cannot yet see. Let it knock. You don't need to answer, because you've moved houses. You've moved into the reality of it is done. You've moved into the frequency of I already am. You've moved into the identity of the one who doesn't question when, because they already know. And from that knowing, you live. From that knowing, you love. From that knowing, you create, not from pressure, not from fear, but from overflow. And this is what changes everything, because people will feel the difference. Your energy will speak before your words ever do. Opportunities will come, not because you hunt them down, but because they are now a match to your state. Synchronicity becomes a lifestyle, peace becomes your default, and gratitude becomes your natural response. Not because everything outside has changed, but because you have. You've shifted the cause. You've rewritten the route. You've chosen to feel it real again and again until it became more real than anything outside of you. And now the world has no choice but to reflect it. That's the law. That's the design. That's the power. And it is yours. You walk now with a different rhythm, with a quieter mind, with an open heart, with eyes that see the invisible before it appears. Because you've remembered, it's not about doing more. It's about being more of who you already are. The most powerful version of you was never far away. It was just buried beneath doubt, beneath delay, beneath distraction. And now that you've cleared it away, now that you've returned to assumption and state and certainty, now that you've chosen the end and stepped into it fully, nothing can stop what's coming. Because it's not coming. It's arriving. It's becoming visible. It's becoming inevitable. And you're ready. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Now. Because you've stopped waiting. You've started living. And everything is following. As it always was meant to. As it always will. There's nothing more to reach for. Only more to receive. The life you once imagined. The peace you once craved. The freedom you once chased. It no longer lives on the horizon. It lives here. In you. As you. The illusion that you had to earn your worth has dissolved. The lie that your dreams were distant has faded. And what remains is clarity, presence, and the quiet power of someone who remembers they are the source. You no longer walk to become. You walk to express. You don't speak to convince. You speak to declare. You don't create from need. You create from identity. This is embodiment. This is alignment. This is the life of someone who no longer asks for signs, because they know they are the signal. You've crossed the line between waiting and welcoming, between hoping and knowing, between reaching and resting in the truth. And this truth has set everything in motion. Now, even in stillness, you are creating. Even in silence, you are receiving. Even in the quiet moments where nothing moves, everything is shifting, because your state has shifted, and state is everything. You could have the same surroundings, the same bank account, the same circumstances, but when you shift, the meaning changes. The experience changes. The way life reflects back to you, it all transforms. Not because the outer changed first, but because you did. And the moment you assumed something higher, the world began reorganizing itself around your new identity. So trust the reorganization. Let the old fall away without grasping. Let the new arrive without resistance. You don't need to manage the how. You only need to hold the state, and the state will manage the rest. This is your new baseline now, ease and identity. No more waiting for worthiness. No more trading effort for value. You are whole now. You are the embodiment of the life you once thought lived outside of you. And as you walk forward from this place, forward with intention, with softness, with certainty, know this. Every desire that arises in your heart is a seed of something already real. And every time you assume its fulfillment, you give it roots. So assume boldly, feel deeply, receive fully. Let the old timeline collapse under the weight of your decision. Let the old identity dissolve in the light of your truth. And let your life unfold as the most honest reflection of who you've chosen to become. Because that choice is power. That choice is prayer. That choice is creation, and it is yours now and always. And now, as this journey draws to its natural close, not an end, but a deep beginning, there is nothing left to add, nothing left to prove. Only this moment. And in this moment, everything is already here. The peace you were waiting to feel after the success. The love you thought would come when someone else chose you. The confidence you believed lived just beyond your next achievement. It's here now, because you are here now, present, whole, certain, alive. The game has changed, not because the rules were rewritten, but because you've stopped playing the old game altogether. You're no longer reacting to life like a stranger. You are meeting life as its co-creator, with open hands, with calm breath, with eyes that don't just see what is, but what's becoming. You've trained yourself not just to believe, but to be. And the difference is everything. From this new place of being, every day becomes sacred. Not because it's free from challenge, but because you're no longer bound to the version of you who made struggle necessary. Now, challenge is opportunity. Delay is divine timing. Silence is integration. And every thought, every feeling, every word becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your reality, painted with intention, emotion, and trust. You no longer chase the dream. You embody it. You walk through the same world, but nothing is the same. Because everything is filtered through the frequency of your new identity. You've become the embodiment of the wish fulfilled. You've become the mirror that reflects the life you always knew was yours. You've become the answer you were searching for. So take this final breath, not as a closing, but as a claiming. Inhale and feel the reality of your chosen state deepen in your body. Exhale and release everything that never belonged to the new you. And hold this. You do not need to try harder. You only need to remember longer. And when you forget, as we all do, come back to this space. Not to start over, but to realign, to return, to re-enter the frequency of truth. You already are. You already have. You already know. And from this state, everything else becomes inevitable. If you enjoyed this content, share it and subscribe to the channel. Every day, we bring new videos to nourish your soul. Now, as the final echoes of this journey settle into the quiet spaces of your awareness, let this last truth root deeply within. This is who you are now, not just in thought, not just in emotion, but in embodiment, in presence, in being. You are no longer in the process of becoming. You are living as the version of yourself who has remembered that all becoming was just a path back to the truth, that you were never without it. Everything you desired was waiting for one thing, your alignment. And now you are aligned, with clarity, with love, with power, with peace. Let this not be a peak followed by a return to the old rhythm. Let it be the new rhythm. Let it be the new baseline of your existence, a deep, unwavering state of assumption. And from this state, everything flows. Relationships evolve. Abundance multiplies. Health stabilizes. Joy expands. Not because you chase any of it, but because you become a match for all of it. This is what it means to live in harmony with the law, to live as the law. You're no longer a student of truth. You're a living demonstration of it. You are what happens when someone stops waiting for change and chooses to be the cause. You are what happens when someone stops chasing signs and becomes the signal. You are what happens when someone steps fully into the state of the wish fulfilled and never steps back out. So go now. Live your life, not with urgency, but with certainty, not with resistance, but with rhythm, not in pursuit, but in expression of what already is. Let the people around you wonder how you move with so much calm. Let them feel the magnetism in your presence. Let them sense the difference, even if they don't understand it, and be changed by it. You won't need to explain. You'll be the explanation. Because assumption is not just a concept you've learned. It's the frequency you now live in. And it's where everything begins and begins and begins again. Every breath, a creation. Every choice, a reflection. Every moment, a mirror. And you, finally, standing as the one who knows. It's already done. And so it is. So it is. And in this final moment, as the sound fades and stillness rises once again, know that this is not goodbye, not an ending. This is the threshold of embodiment, the quiet place where transformation stops being something you talk about and becomes something you simply are. No more preparing, no more doubting, no more rehearsing the old story just because it's familiar. You have stepped across an invisible line, from concept into conviction, from desire into being, from waiting into knowing. Now, your life becomes the living echo of all that you've assumed. Every breath you take, a confirmation. Every step you walk, a declaration. Every heartbeat, a reminder. You are already it. You don't need to hold on tightly. You are not afraid of losing what is real. Real things are not fragile. Truth does not vanish under pressure. You can relax into your new identity. Let it be natural. Let it be light. Let it be yours. Because it is. From this moment on, when old stories whisper, you'll remember the new state. When old emotions rise, you'll return to the new self. When the world reflects delay or noise, you'll pause, smile, and remember. I go first. The world follows me, and it will. It always does. Because assumption is not passive. It is power. Soft, steady, sacred power, and it's yours to carry now. So carry it gently. Carry it boldly. Carry it like the light it is. Let the energy you hold become the message. Let the state you live in become the magnet. Let the life you build be the quiet revolution for those still remembering their own power. This is your season of alignment. This is your time to rise and receive. So take this final breath of this journey, not with an ending in your heart, but with a beginning in your bones. And walk forward, head high, heart open, soul anchored, in the full embodiment of all you are. And as you do, assume the best. Feel it real, live it fully, and watch, in awe, in wonder, in gratitude, as life mirrors it all back to you. Because now, you are the mirror, and what you reflect is nothing less than your highest truth. I already am. I already have. It is already done, and so it is, forever and always. And from this place, this still, unwavering center of truth, you walk not into the future, but into the now, fully awake, fully aware that your world is responding to you, moment by moment, breath by breath. You no longer chase alignment. You are alignment. You no longer wait for the perfect time. You're the perfect time. You no longer ask whether it's possible. You're the possibility made manifest. Your life no longer unfolds in reaction to circumstances. It unfolds in resonance with your chosen state. When you speak now, the words carry weight, not because they're loud, but because they are rooted in certainty. When you act now, it's not to get something. It's to express what you've already received in consciousness. When you love now, it's not to be filled. It's because you are already overflowing. This is the real shift. This is what it means to walk in grace. You're no longer trying to become magnetic. You've remembered that you always were. Because magnetism is not in your effort, it's in your energy. And your energy is now tuned to the frequency of already done. This frequency doesn't beg. It doesn't perform. It doesn't chase. It simply radiates. And in that radiation, the people, experiences, resources, and opportunities that match your state are pulled to you, as if drawn by gravity. But it's not gravity. It's law. It's resonance. It's assumption. You are now living proof that the world does not respond to struggle, it responds to truth. So let this truth guide you as the days unfold. You don't need to repeat the old patterns. You don't need to seek from lack. You don't need to shrink for safety. You're no longer available for the life that comes from fear. You are only available for the life that flows from faith. Faith in yourself. Faith in the unseen. Faith in the inevitability of what you've already chosen to believe. And that choice is what now writes your story. Not your past, not their opinions, not your conditions, your assumption. So choose again and again and again until choosing becomes your nature, until assumption becomes your essence, until manifestation becomes your breath. You don't have to work for it. You only have to hold it. Hold the vision. Hold the frequency. Hold the knowing. Let your life be the mirror of your inner world. Let your days be drenched in gratitude. Not because something finally happened, but because you finally remembered it already has. This is not inspiration. This is initiation. You have crossed the threshold. Now walk in your truth, quietly, powerfully, fully. And the world, it will rise to meet you. Every time, without fail, without delay, because you're no longer waiting. You're walking. You're living. You're being. And so it is. And so you continue, not as a seeker, but as the one who is found. Not outside of yourself, but within, where it always was. The search is over. The striving has quieted. Now, there is only embodiment. You do not need signs to tell you you're on the path. You are the path. You are walking proof of what happens when someone returns to the power within their own consciousness and decides, without apology, this is who I am now. No more looking back. No more checking for permission. No more waiting for the world to affirm what you already know in your spirit. From this moment forward, your only task is to stay in your chosen state, not perfectly, but consistently, not as performance, but as a practice. Every morning becomes a return of truth. Every evening becomes a confirmation of your wholeness. When doubt tries to creep in, you won't fight it. You'll simply choose again. When fear whispers, you'll breathe. And remember that fear is not your truth. It's only the echo of a self you no longer identify with. You've given up the identity of the one who waits. You've stepped into the identity of the one who decides, the one who assumes, the one who becomes. And you'll begin to notice how the world reshapes itself. Not just through big, dramatic shifts, but in quiet, miraculous subtleties. A conversation that opens a door. A stranger who echoes your inner dialogue. An idea, perfectly timed, that leads to something greater than you imagined. These are not accidents. They are reflections, confirmations, echoes of your state, materialized into the timeline you now occupy. You are no longer reacting to reality. You are writing it moment by moment, in thought, in feeling, in being. Let it continue. Let it deepen. Let it become so natural that anything else feels foreign. So that when you find yourself outside of the state, you don't panic. You simply return. Not because you're broken, but because you're aware, because you're practiced, because you're committed to living from the truth that has set you free. And the more you return, the less effort it takes. The more you embody it, the more magnetic you become. Not to things, but to alignment. And alignment is what draws all things to you. So live from the end. Feel it now. Walk with your shoulders relaxed, your chest open, your mind still. Speak not with hope, but with certainty. Love not with fear, but with freedom. Create not with effort, but with overflow. Because that is who you are now. The one who remembers. The one who assumes. The one who already is. And as the world continues to catch up to your truth, let it, with grace, with trust, with quiet power, and above all, with the unwavering knowing that nothing outside of you has authority over your life unless you give it. And now, you give that power only to your assumption, only to your chosen state, only to the truth you carry within you. It is done. It is done. It is done. And so it is. And so it continues effortlessly, naturally, inevitably. Because once you've stepped into this frequency, once you've chosen to live in the assumption of already being, already having, already knowing, the universe reorganizes itself, not in chaos, but in perfect coherence. Things fall away, not as punishment, but as preparation. Old identities, expired stories, limiting beliefs, they dissolve not through force, but through non-resonance. They simply cannot exist in the presence of the new you, the true you, and you don't mourn what's lost. You celebrate what's aligned, because now your vision is clear, your energy is clean, your direction is rooted. No longer do you search for your place in the world. You're the place. No longer do you ask, is this meant for me? You decide what is meant for you, and your decisions shape the terrain beneath your feet. You're not just living in alignment. You're creating from alignment. And what flows from this place is always good, always precise, always divine. It becomes easier to say no to what doesn't match your frequency. Easier to walk away from the old, not with resistance, but with reverence. Because you understand, what's ahead is always greater than what's behind when you are living from the end. You stop negotiating with your worth. You stop waiting for approval. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that no longer hold your expansion. You stand taller, not in ego, but in remembrance. Not to prove, but to radiate, because your very being is enough. Your presence is the manifestation. Your joy is the signal. Your peace is the magnet. And now, life meets you differently, because it must. Because it only ever mirrors back what you deeply and consistently assume to be true. And now, your truth is love. Your truth is power. Your truth is freedom. Let it echo through your life. Let it shape every conversation, every step, every decision. Let it guide your mornings and cradle your nights. Let it be the silent music playing underneath everything you do. And when the world tries to tempt you back into doubt, you don't react. You remember. You return. You realign. Because the path is clear now. The old identity is gone now. The new reality is here now. And you're not stepping into it. You're already inside it, breathing it, walking it, living it, fully, finally, forever. And so it is. And so it is the softest truth and the greatest power, not spoken in urgency, not declared in desperation, but whispered with the calm of someone who has come home to themselves. This is your rhythm now, not the rhythm of striving, but of stillness, not the rhythm of seeking, but of receiving. You no longer live in cycles of waiting. You live in waves of arrival. Everything that matches your state finds its way to you without confusion, without delay. Not because you chase it, but because you've made yourself available to it. You become a clear vessel, a magnetic field of coherence, alignment, and certainty. And when things take time, you don't question your worth. You trust the unfolding. You know that time is not a barrier. It is a servant. It works in service of the version of you who already knows. I do not rush what is mine. You have become a keeper of frequency, a guardian of your assumption, a lighthouse that does not move, but that everything else navigates toward. That's who you are now. You no longer fight with the moment. You bless the moment. You no longer resist what is. You recognize what's rising. And everything around you begins to carry the signature of your assumption. Conversations shift. Opportunities reveal themselves. Even the air around you feels different. You live in what others call coincidence, but you know it as confirmation. Synchronicities become your language. Ease becomes your evidence. Fulfillment becomes your baseline. Because when you choose the end, when you dwell in the state of your desire fulfilled, the world organizes itself around your choice. Like gravity, like breath, like law. You have become the living result of your own decision. And it shows, not in volume, but in vibration. Not in force, but in presence. Not in performance, but in peace. This peace, it's not passive. It's powerful. It doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you stop rushing. You still act, but from flow. You still dream, but from fullness. You still desire, but from a place of trust, not tension. And trust changes everything. Because when you truly trust that it's already yours, that it's already done, you allow life to deliver it in ways you never could have orchestrated. You become receptive, open, unburdened. You receive not only what you asked for, but more, because your energy no longer resists receiving. You don't limit the how. You just hold the who, the identity of the one who has. And you keep holding it, living it, breathing it, because that is the new you. Not a mask, not a performance, but a return to the one you were before the world told you to doubt, before fear taught you to shrink, before you forgot the most essential truth of all. You are the creator, and what you assume consistently, confidently, courageously becomes what you live. So live it now, completely, and let everything else respond. And it will respond, because it always does. Not sometimes, not eventually, always. That is the quiet promise stitched into the very fabric of reality, that what you consistently hold within must reflect without. This is no longer a lesson to learn. It is a truth you now live. You've stepped into a new paradigm, one where you no longer identify with effort, but with energy. One where your inner world is no longer shaped by conditions, but where conditions are shaped by your inner world. This is mastery, not over others, not over the world, but over your state. And when you master your state, you master your life. So let it deepen. Let the embodiment root even more fully in your day-to-day experience. Let every simple moment become sacred. Waking up is no longer routine, it's activation. You rise into your identity, not with hesitation, but with the calm power of someone who knows, this day responds to who I decide to be. You don't need to script every detail. You don't need to visualize endlessly. You only need to dwell in the state, and the state will do the work. When you feel love, you become the kind of person who love flows to. When you feel abundant, money, opportunity, and resources naturally gravitate toward you. When you feel peace, chaos dissolves before it can even reach you. It's not magic. It's alignment. It's the law. And you don't have to understand how every piece fits. You don't have to micromanage the journey. You only have to trust that your state, your frequency, is the signal that commands all of it. So trust your feeling more than the facts. Trust the resonance more than the appearance. And most of all, trust yourself. You have proven. Now, what happens when you return to your own power? What shifts when you stop waiting for the world to show you who you are and decide to show the world who you've already become? And from this space, life becomes effortless, not because nothing is required, but because resistance disappears. Desire is no longer something that tugs painfully at your soul. It becomes a soft invitation toward a higher expression of the truth you already carry. You're not here to chase. You are here to remember. To remember the version of you who does not doubt, who does not fear, who does not collapse under delay or uncertainty, but who stands still in the eye of all things and says, "It is done," and let that be enough. You no longer speak from lack. You speak from fulfillment. You no longer wait for permission. You give yourself permission. You no longer measure worth by outcome. You rest in the truth that you were worthy before the first sign ever appeared. This is the legacy of assumption. This is the gift of awareness. And this is the life that now unfolds before you. Not because you've earned it, but because you've assumed it. And so it appears, as it always does, as it always will. And so it unfolds, not in bursts of chaos, but in waves of coherence. Not in sudden miracles born of desperation, but in quiet manifestations that flow naturally from your state of being. You don't chase the next thing anymore. You recognize that you are the thing. You are the alignment that creates the opportunity. You are the worthiness that attracts the love. You are the calm that invites abundance. You become the center of gravity in your own life, and everything now orbits the truth you carry within. I'm already it. Let that truth live in you, not just in meditation, not just in the quiet of midnight whispers, but in your footsteps, in your laughter, in the pauses between moments. Let it live in how you respond, how you breathe, how you love. Even now, life is bending toward your vibration. Even now, things are being rearranged behind the veil of what you can see, not to test you, not to punish you, but to match you. You don't need to strain to make it happen. You only need to remain faithful to the feeling of the end and live from it. You know the difference now? Living toward the future is exhausting. Living from the future is effortless. Because in that state, there's no need to wonder. There's only being, and that being is enough. You can feel in your body how different this feels from effort, from control, from doubt. This is the state you're meant to live in. This is where your nervous system relaxes. This is where your heart finally opens. This is where your creativity flows, where your relationships blossom, where your vision becomes reality. Not because you did more, but because you became aligned. And in alignment, you remember that manifestation is not a performance, it's a permission. Permission to live as the version of you who no longer negotiates with possibility. Permission to say yes without fear. Permission to stop earning and start embodying. This is what you've tapped into now. The frequency of certainty, the energy of already, the rhythm of alignment. And this rhythm will carry you through decisions, through seasons, through timelines, through everything the old version of you would have tried to control. Because you know now, you were never here to control life. You were here to align with it, to trust the unfolding, to feel it before you see it, to walk as if the answer had already arrived, because it has, because you have. You're the arrival, and everything else now meets you at the frequency of who you've chosen to be. So continue, live in the state, breathe in the end. Let the world respond quietly and completely to the new command written in your energy. It is already mine, and so it is, and so it is, again and again and again. Each moment a new opportunity to rest in that knowing. Each breath a return to your chosen truth. Each step a reaffirmation. I am not seeking it. I am living it. Because once you've aligned with this frequency, everything changes, not always at once, but undeniably, steadily, faithfully. People feel it. You feel it. You no longer chase results because you understand that results are the shadows cast by your state. And now your state is unwavering, uncluttered, and clear. This is the most powerful place a human can live from. Not above others, not beyond feeling, but rooted deeply in identity. Not the identity given by the world, but the identity you chose, the one that was always yours underneath the noise. You walk now in quiet certainty. No need to explain. No need to justify. No need to prove. In the world, it responds in kind. Suddenly, the right people arrive. The right words flow. The right moments unfold. Not because of luck, but because of alignment. Your assumption has set the tone, and life follows the tone. Not the tension, not the timeline, the tone. And your tone now is peace. Your tone is clarity. Your tone is completion. You have remembered what most spend a lifetime trying to find, that your reality begins inside. That creation is not effort, it is energy. That you don't become powerful, you remember that you always were. And the more you remember, the more you rise. Not in struggle, in stillness. Not with control, with trust. Not in resistance, but in rhythm. This is your new way. The way of ease, the way of grace, the way of assumption. And when the old world pulls at you, the version built from fear, from lack, from delay, you no longer fight it. You simply don't answer its call, because you know who you are now. You know where you live now. You live in the state of already. Already chosen, already whole, already loved, already supported, already free. You don't just say it, you breathe it, you radiate it, you walk in it every single day, and every single day, life becomes a reflection of that decision. This is how you move forward now, as the embodiment of the outcome, as the vibration of the vision, as the living proof that assumption, when sustained, becomes creation. You are not a visitor here. You are home, and this home, this inner state, will carry you into everything you've ever dreamed of and more. Because now, you no longer manifest from desire alone. You manifest from identity. And identity, when aligned with truth, is unstoppable. So let the truth echo in you. I already am. I already have. I already know. And because I do, it already is. Forever. And always. And always this truth will hold you. Not because you need to cling to it, but because it has become part of you. Etched not just into your thoughts, but into your frequency, your walk, your gaze, your presence. People may not understand it. They may ask what changed, what technique you used, what external strategy created the shift. And all you'll be able to say, with peace in your voice and calm in your chest, is, I assumed it, and then I became it. That's it. You didn't wait. You didn't beg. You didn't hustle yourself into worthiness. You simply assumed your truth until it was no longer a thought. It was your nature. And from that nature, life had no choice but to respond. Because life does not reward effort. It mirrors identity. And your identity now is rooted in the frequency of already. Already loved. Already free. Already enough. So even when the world tests you with delays or shadows of the past, you do not waver. You do not react. You remember. You breathe. You return. You re-enter your state. And the state, the only thing that ever truly mattered, brings everything to you. Exactly as you assumed. Exactly as you've always known, deep down, beneath the noise and the doubt and the years of forgetting. This is the version of you who never needed fixing. The version who only needed remembering. And now that you have remembered, fully, completely, without hesitation, you will never again hand your power over to what you see. Because what you see is not what's true. What you feel, deeply, consistently, lovingly, creates what's true. So feel it now. Feel the life that once felt distant, as if it's already yours. Feel the relationship, the peace, the freedom, the abundance, as if it is your current experience. Feel it not with tension, but with tenderness. Not with fear, but with faith. Not with urgency, but with grace. Because you no longer chase. You call it in. You invite it through the open door of your assumption. And your assumption, when sustained, becomes embodiment. An embodiment, when lived, becomes reality. This is not a concept anymore. This is not theory. This is your truth now. You have chosen it. You have held it. You have become it. And from this sacred becoming, everything changes. Not because you pushed the world to respond, but because you became someone the world must respond to. So walk, not forward, from within. Walk from the end. Walk from completion. Walk from wholeness. Walk from love. Because you are no longer waiting for the life you want. You are living it, right now. And so it is, and so it flows. Each breath you take now is not reaching forward into the future, but drawing it into you, pulling it gently into your present, into your awareness, into your body. Because you finally understand the truth. You are not separate from the life you desire. There is no gap. There is no delay. There is only alignment, and alignment is now your resting state. You do not have to maintain it with pressure. You sustain it with presence, with quiet conviction, with a softness that comes not from weakness, but from absolute trust in the unseen. That trust becomes your compass. And so you move differently. Less to get, more to give. Less to achieve, more to express. Less to escape, more to expand. You don't seek validation from others, because the only approval that ever mattered was your own. And now you've given it. You've claimed your worth, not as a future reward, but as a present foundation. And from that foundation, you build. But this building isn't effortful. It's elegant. It's magnetic. It's inevitable. Because the version of you that lives in the end result is not stressed or anxious or desperate for signs. That version is relaxed, clear, steady. And that version, the one you are now, no longer needs the outside world to hurry. You trust that it's catching up. You trust that it must reflect your inner world, because the inner world is law and the outer world is echo. So you live in the frequency of the echo before it arrives. You walk in the room like the opportunity is already yours. You sit at the table like the answer has already been spoken. You wake up like the love you once craved now surrounds you. And it does. Not because it appeared, but because you did. You appeared in your wholeness, in your fullness, in your decision. And life rearranged itself around you. Because that's what life always does. That's what it was designed to do. To mirror the state of the one who dares to assume their highest truth and hold it, gently, fully, and without apology. So now, this is your way. You don't perform for possibility. You don't hustle for permission. You don't collapse into the old patterns when things seem quiet. You sit deeper in your knowing. You lean back into your chosen state. You say, softly but clearly, I've already received it. The rest is just catching up. And when it arrives, you won't be surprised. You'll smile, not because it finally happened, but because it had already happened within you long before it ever showed up around you. That is the rhythm you live by now. That is the truth you breathe. And that is the version of you that the world now reflects. Not with resistance, but with reverence. Because you become the source. You've become the vibration. You've become the embodiment of everything you once hoped to receive. And so you receive, effortlessly, repeatedly, beautifully, and always. And so it is. And so it continues, without end. Not because the journey is unfinished, but because you've stepped into the flow of a life that's always becoming, always expanding, always reflecting the truth you now carry with ease. There's no longer a finish line. There's no destination you must reach to feel fulfilled. Fulfillment is here because you are here. And in your presence, the energy of certainty radiates. Without needing to be loud, you are felt. Without needing to be seen, you are known. Because true power doesn't scream. It glows. It moves through the world with softness and strength, with conviction and calm, with quiet authority that requires no explanation, only embodiment. You've become that now. The world feels different because you are different. What once triggered you no longer has weight. What once frightened you no longer has shape. What once felt impossible now feels obvious. Not because you forced anything, but because you let go of needing to. You surrendered your attachment to the old timeline and stepped into one that was always yours. but required your permission to unfold. And now, you don't beg life to bless you. You walk as someone already blessed. You don't search for signs of abundance. You carry the frequency of abundance in your breath, in your thoughts, in your rest. You don't need to prove yourself. You're already living as proof. Proof that assumption works. Proof that energy leads. Proof that your inner world is the first world, the one that creates all others. So let the momentum carry you. Let the ease deepen. Let the state become not something you practice, but something you live automatically, effortlessly, fully. There will still be moments, quiet ones, where the old thoughts may return, gently tapping, asking if you've forgotten. But now you smile when they visit. You greet them like old friends who no longer live here. You return to your state without resistance because you know it's always there, waiting, welcoming, familiar. And every time you return, it becomes easier. Every time you choose again, it becomes clearer. Every time you remember who you are, the world remembers with you. This is the cycle now, not of trying and failing, but of remembering and aligning, of assuming and becoming, of living from your truth so completely, so effortlessly, that manifestation is no longer a moment, but a lifestyle, no longer a goal, but a side effect. And from this space, you don't need the world to recognize you, because you've already recognized yourself. That's the only recognition that ever mattered. And now, you walk, not to get somewhere, but because it's simply who you are, the one who already has, the one who already is, the one who no longer waits, because they remember, it's already done, and so it is, not just a phrase, but a reality now etched into your being. What once felt like a mantra is now your way of life. What once needed repeating is now second nature. What once felt like belief now feels like identity. You no longer remind yourself that it's done. You live from it being done. You no longer wait for alignment. You are alignment. You no longer chase purpose. You embody it moment by moment, breath by breath. This is the frequency the world feels when you enter a room. A calm that isn't passive. A presence that isn't demanding. A certainty that doesn't need to be explained. Because energy speaks before words ever can. And your energy now speaks fluently in the language of completion. It says, there's nothing missing. It says, I trust what I've chosen. It says, I am available only for what matches who I've become. And the world, attentive, responsive, obedient to vibration, reflects that back with absolute precision. This is why now, when you act, it's inspired, not pressured. When you rest, it's restorative, not anxious. When you create, it's from overflow, not emptiness. You stop trying to fill the void, because there is no void. There is only fullness. There is only resonance. There is only the current of life that flows through you, as you, for you, because you've allowed it to. You've stopped resisting your own power. You've stopped postponing your own joy. You've stopped editing your own truth to fit into someone else's story. You no longer shrink. You expand. You no longer explain. You express. And through your expression, you attract effortlessly what others still work so hard to find. Not because you're lucky, because you're aligned, because you've chosen to remember, because you've chosen to stay. Stay in your state. Stay in your truth. Stay in the assumption that everything you desire, everything you are, is already real, already here, already done. So let that be your quiet power, now and always. Let it speak in your decisions. Let it echo in your presence. Let it radiate in every moment you choose not to react, but to remain. Remain in peace. Remain in clarity. Remain in the end. Because the end is not far. The end is not someday. The end is a state. And you're living from it now. That is why things are changing. That is why life feels different. That is why you're no longer asking when. Because you know, and that knowing will carry you for the rest of your days, gracefully, abundantly, fully. So breathe. Feel the wholeness that already lives inside you. Feel the gratitude for what already is. And know that this state, this stillness, this soft but unshakable certainty will never leave you. Because it is not something you found. It is something you are, and so it is. And so you move through the world now not just differently, but deliberately. Each breath is a quiet agreement with the universe. I remember who I am. I remember what I've chosen. I remember that I already have it. There is no more waiting, no more rehearsing doubt, no more outsourcing your power to the external. You've reclaimed your place at the center of your own creation, not as a controller, not as a chaser, but as the cause of your peace, the cause of your clarity, the cause of your unfolding life. And when you walk through moments of uncertainty, and you won't look outside yourself for stability. You'll return inward, to the state, to the feeling, to the knowing, because you now understand that the external only ever mirrors the internal. Nothing more, nothing less. And so your inner world becomes sacred. Your assumptions become holy. Your identity becomes the foundation upon which everything else is built. No more leaning on the visible to validate your faith. You lead with the invisible. You lead with the energy. You lead with the vibration of your chosen self. And the outer world responds in kind, as it always has, as it always will. What once felt like a distant promise now feels like a quiet arrival. The love you longed for lives in your heart. The abundance you chased flows through your hands. The purpose you sought awakens every time you speak, move, and breathe as the highest version of you. Not because you're chasing alignment, but because you've become alignment. And now, you're no longer surprised when life unfolds beautifully. You are grateful, and you are ready. Ready to receive without apology. Ready to hold joy without fear. Ready to let peace be your new normal. Because this is what happens when assumption becomes identity. When identity becomes embodiment. When embodiment becomes your default state. You no longer look for the path. You're the path. And everywhere you go, reality bends not to your effort, but to your energy. So walk with grace. Speak with love. Decide with power. Rest with trust. Create from completion. Because you know now, deeply, fully, finally, that life is not something you have to earn. It is something you allow to mirror the version of you that already exists. The version that lives from the end. The version that needs no proof. The version that simply says, it's already mine, and then lives accordingly. So keep living accordingly, and everything else will follow. Every time, with ease, with joy, with inevitability, and always, so it is. And so, as the final light of this journey settles over you like dusk on still water, you realize something you may have never fully allowed yourself to believe. You were never far from the life you desired. You were only ever a few breaths away, a few moments of stillness, a few silent declarations, a few fearless assumptions. You didn't need to fight your way here. You needed only to remember. And now that you've remembered, not just in mind, but in spirit, in energy, in embodiment, the world around you has no choice but to align. There's no more begging for signs, no more searching for permission, no more waiting for worthiness. All of that has dissolved. In its place stands you, whole, grounded, enough. The one who walks as if the vision has already landed. The one who speaks from the echo of it being done. The one who assumes with such quiet certainty that the world bends without resistance. This is the soft power no one can take from you. Not because you're protected by anything outside, but because you're anchored by everything within. And no matter what may unfold beyond this moment, you now have a place to return to. Not a practice, not a technique, a state, the state of already, the state of knowing, the state of being. And from this state, everything flows, everything opens, everything becomes. So walk forward now. No looking back, no second guessing, no doubting your light just because others haven't remembered theirs. You're the mirror now, and those who are ready will feel you. If you enjoyed this content, share it and subscribe to the channel. Every day, we bring new videos to nourish your soul. Until next time, stay in your knowing. It's already yours. It's already done. And so it is. And so it is. A phrase you've heard many times on this journey, but now it lands differently. Not as something you repeat to believe, but as something you say because you know. You've walked through this experience not as a listener, but as a participant, a co-creator in your own unfolding. You haven't just absorbed words. You've activated something ancient within yourself. You've remembered the truth that doesn't scream, it whispers. The truth that doesn't demand, it radiates. The truth that doesn't arrive from outside, it emerges from within. And this emergence isn't something that fades. Because once you've touched this state, once you've fully felt what it means to live in the assumption of already, you can never go back to who you were before. Not because the old you was wrong, but because you've grown too large for the shell you once wore. You've outlived the identity built on limitation. You've stepped beyond the script that told you to wait, to earn, to prove. Now you assume, and from assumption, you align. From alignment, you receive. And from receiving, you remember again and again. There is nothing outside of me that is more powerful than what I hold within. So if the winds of the world shift, you stay steady. If time stretches longer than expected, you stay centered. If no one understands the peace you found, you keep it anyway. Because this isn't about proving anything. It's about being everything you already are. And as you move into the next chapter of your life, you don't carry fear. You carry identity. You carry frequency. You carry the echo of this moment where you chose fully, finally, to stop waiting and start being. So let life meet you there. Let it be gentle. Let it be miraculous. Let it be fast or slow. But above all, let it be true to the version of you that now leads. The version of you that no longer hopes, but assumes. And because you assume, you already have. Because you already have, you already are. And because you already are, everything else will arrive. In perfect rhythm, in perfect time, in perfect reflection of the self you've now claimed as home. So close your eyes if they're not already. Take a final breath. Let the silence settle. And know that from this moment forward, you never walk alone. You walk with your truth. You walk with your state. You walk with the quiet, sacred knowing that whatever you assume must become. And so it will. And so it is.